What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. I really appreciate it, as always. So, today we welcome along a fantastic actress, which I've been lucky enough to see recently in As She Likes It, a play all about the exposing the rather darker side of Hollywood, dating back to the 1920s, written by the fantastic Chloe Wade, who's also been on the show, and that is Miss Krupa Pattani. Did I say that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Again, I should have checked. So,
Don't worry, it's okay.
so Krupa trained at Drama Studio, and she's been involved in many different projects, of course, across this business. For you might have heard her voice in audiobooks such as Love on the Menu by Mimi Deb and The Naughty Kitten and the Cuddly Seal by Paula Harrison. For film, she's appeared in Ali and Aura and
Ali
Honeycomb.
and Ava.
Sorry?
Ali and Ava.
Ava, sorry. Oh, that's a
Yeah.
V. Sorry, it's my handwriting.
Don't
Uh,
worry, don't worry. No.
Ali and Ava and Honeycomb Lodge. For stage, she has appeared at the Grosvenor Park Open Air Theatre, where she's appeared in Midsummer Night's Dream, Othello, Cyrano de Bergerac, Twelfth Night, and Masters Are You Mad? As well as Robin Hood at the Dinnerladies UK Tour of 2009, and of course, As She Likes It, playing the damsel in distress by Chloe Wade. And for TV, she has appeared as a regular in Hollyoaks, Tin Star, Silent Witness, and potentially one of the biggest shows on British television over the last few years, Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. That's something we'll talk about in more detail today. But until then, Krupa, hello.
Hello, thank you. What an incredible introduction. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for correcting me, by the way. This was my silly handwriting, but
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, I do
it's,
that all the time. I can barely read. I've made some notes. I'm just realizing I can't read any of them. So let's see.
let's see what happens.
Let's
Cool.
see what happens.
Let's see what happens. That's great. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming along today. So we start at the beginning.
Thank you for
To
having
begin,
me. Yeah.
yeah, no worries, no worries. To begin at the beginning, where did it all start for you, Krupa? The love of acting. Where did it come from?
Um, the love of acting. Excellent question. Yeah. I think I just loved watching. I was just so inspired by films. I remember watching Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman,
Mm,
um, and just there was a few things that I watched that really struck me. That was one, and um, seeing Shobna Galati in Dinnerladies as a kid, and like Al Pacino, I think it was because he played someone blind. And I mean, watching it as a kid, probably it wasn't the best film to watch as a kid, Scent of a Woman, because he plays a very interesting character.
yeah.
And in terms of the themes of As She Likes It, I don't know. I haven't really unpacked Scent of a Woman as a film in terms of female empowerment. But when I watched it as a kid, I was just so struck by how mesmerizing he was. And I completely believed that he was blind. And there's a moment, I think, where you see him in his shed in his room, which is at the bottom of the garden at the beginning of the film. And you just kind of realize that he's blind. And I just remember being like, I, I can't believe that he's doing that. I completely believe him. And Shobna Galati in Dinnerladies, I just hadn't seen an Asian woman play somebody that wasn't specified as Asian. Like she just plays this kooky character in Dinnerladies called Anita, and
Mm.
there's no mention of her ethnicity or anything. Just she's just northern, like she just is a woman from the north, and she is kind of crazy. But I just related to her so much and her kookiness, and I was like, that's my kind of crazy. And as a kid, like was like, I can't believe that there's someone like me on screen. And I remember thinking, if she can do it, maybe I can do it. And so I was inspired by other actors on television, and um, I would like copy them. And there's also Marisa Tomei and my cousin Vinny. And
Mm.
I used to like learn bits of whatever I found and like do it in front of the mirror. And so I remember there's like a monologue from Marisa Tomei where she talks about this deer getting shot. And I remember I learned that and I learned her accent and stuff and would just keep doing it. And I just wanted to do what they were doing so badly.
Mm.
And that's where it all started for me.
Fantastic. I think what a great introduction, I think, to the world watching someone like Al Pacino, where someone
Yeah, right. Yeah.
who's been there and done it and, worked alongside so many like greats and stuff. Did you ever see The Irishman?
I haven't seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's the
fantastic.
Martin Scorsese one, right?
Yeah, Scorsese. It's Al Pacino, it's Joey Pesci, it's Robert De Niro.
Right, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
an incredible film. It's long. It's 3.5 hours, but
Right, okay.
it's worth it. Honestly, it's just brilliant in terms of the filmmaking, acting, everything about it. You're just watching a master or masters at work, and you just sit there and think,
Wow.
yeah, this is why I wanted to do it. This is why I wanted to do it.
Oh
And
my God, I'm definitely gonna check that out. I haven't
yeah,
actually. That sort of
let's
went
go.
over my head a little bit, that film. I need to go back and
Yeah.
watch that.
Yeah, you have to do it. I think some people do it in stages because like you do like 1 hour block and then 2 hour block. They go get a cup of tea,
Yeah.
they come back.
Yeah.
I know some people who sat through the entire things without stopping, and
Wow,
I'm
that's
like,
impressive.
how did you do that? They were like, just
Yeah.
persevere, mate, just persevere. Yeah,
Like
but
it's a mission or something.
good persevere, I should say, not a bad.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So you trained at drama studio.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
was it? How were those 3 years?
Yeah, it was brilliant. So I did a year's course. I did a postgraduate certificate in acting, and it was brilliant. It was like rocket science in a year. It felt like
Mm.
not to overplay acting because I'm comparing it to rocket science, but like it just felt like the level of stuff that we learned was a lot, like prolific in the time span that we had. But it was brilliant because at the time, drama studio didn't have any other courses. It just had this acting course. I think it had a directing course as well, but
Yeah.
there was one student on the directing course who was sort of just kind of part of the acting cohort, really. And so the culture of the building was that there were 60-ish people learning there, and the teachers, and that was it. And it was this big Victorian house, and I felt like we were a company of sorts, like for a year. And so it felt like a very safe environment for me personally, because of just like the way the building felt. It kind of felt like a home. And you just were in a kind of acting company for a year, so it kind of felt a bit spoiled almost. We weren't working, but there was a sense that we were a team or something. Do you know what I mean? For a year. So it was really cool. I did not want to leave and was very sad when it finished.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really loved it.
Yeah. Drama studio, is that when you say when it finished, do you mean like when your course finished? Because is it drama studio or drama center, which sadly isn't with us.
Drama studio.
So it's gone, drama studio.
No, so yeah, so Drama Centre's gone, but Drama Studio
Still
has
there.
expanded. So it has like different courses now. I think it has a 2-year course, and I think it's joint with a university. So it's kind of expanded a bit, but yeah, but Drama Centre is closed. Um, and it's when the course finished. So at the time there was just the acting course, pretty much I think a directing course as well. But
Yeah.
when the course finished a year later, and I like was in the real world, I was like, okay, great. I just felt so entitled. I think maybe because I wonder how many people feel like this after drama school, but I was like, great. So where's my work? Like, let's go. I'm ready, Mr. Spielberg. Let's go. Um, didn't quite go that way. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is really hard. And I want to go back to drama studio. But yeah, then the rest is history, I suppose. You find your
Yeah.
way, don't you?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I remember you
Yeah.
sort of leave drama school and you're going, okay, where are you? Casting directors,
Yeah.
agents, where are you?
Yeah.
And they go, who are you? It's like I'm here. I've left drama school, and they're like,
Yeah, hello. How do you not already know who I am? I'm a maid. Do you know what I mean?
I played Pericles on this stage
Yeah,
last year.
hello. Yeah.
Do you not know who I am? And
How
that's
do you
no,
not
no.
know? Yeah.
Yeah. And then they just look at you and go, no, we don't.
Yep.
So
We
yeah,
don't know you. Yeah.
yeah.
And
But no,
you're
but
just
it's
like,
part of it.
oh, reality.
Reality sucks. But
Yeah, it does that.
yeah, but it's all good. No, it's all about just the journey, I think, and
Yeah.
obstacles in the way. Just if anything, makes you stronger, and just
Yeah.
and then you'll get through those boundaries, and you look back and think, oh, I actually did that. I actually got an agent. I actually got a job. I
Yeah.
actually got a really good part in something. I'm actually doing what I want to be doing. It's easier said than done, of course, but it's part of the process. So, like all other actors who are listening to this or other creatives, just keep going. We'll get there. We'll get there together.
I love that. I think you're completely right. I'm saying all of this, there are negative feelings involved, but I say it in
Yeah.
jest, and I completely agree with you.
Oh yeah, of
I
course, of
do think
course.
it's yeah, no, but I do think you're on the right track, and I think that is a decision to be positive about it,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it takes a lot of passion and commitment to make it happen. And I
yeah,
think it's just gold. Just really lovely to hear your how you feel about it. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that is really important. I think that is what has driven me. Like you say, it's not easy, but you get on with it. But the reason you get on with it is because you love it. Otherwise, you would choose something else. Do you know what I mean? It's too difficult otherwise. And I think it's so important, that passion and drive is so key to like success. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and again, with all these things said in jest, of course, only being ironic as we actors are, but it's a thing. I've been out of drama school now for nearly 2 years now, and it's a slow, steady process. Very lucky to have the podcast, and I've done a few things, so I just like
Yeah.
talking to people about it, and but one thing that always sticks out is just you just got to keep going, and I think you mentioned Al Pacino or something earlier. Another person he's worked with is of course Sylvester Stallone, Rocky and all that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
There's that brilliant speech. It's brutal, but it's beautiful. When he says, life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. You have to wrestle your way. You're not just offered a seat at the table or anything. So it's like anything else. It's tough, but you've got to follow what you love doing and that creative spark and never sell out because I'm just a very quick story. I remember going for a desk job once, in
Yeah.
London, and I walked in the office and I thought, what? What is this? And it
Mm.
was like a little, my gut or my soul, wherever it was saying, Ollie, what are you doing? What are you
Yeah.
doing? What are you doing? And I thought, do you know what? Yeah, what am I doing? Can I just get out of here? So I just got out of here and I thought, no, never
Yeah.
again, never again. But yeah, follow your creative spark, guys, because I think that's what makes people happy. So, and make yourselves happy as well, because knowing that you're doing what you love doing. Anyway, enough from me. So,
I completely agree. I think that's really lovely. So nice that you shared that. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah.
So so actually what we've just talked about there actually we'll come back to because one quote, one sorry, credit of yours is sort of shrouded in that sort of determination to keep going and stuff like that. But we'll come back to
Mm.
that later. So I'm
Okay.
just curious to know about your work with audiobooks and
Yeah.
specifically audio work. So as like I said, Love on the Menu and The Naughty Kitten and The Cuddly Seal. First of all, what's it like being kind of because I haven't done an audiobook as of yet, but I've
Mm.
seen pictures of you kind of not locked in the studio. It's a bit hard to put. Let's say you're locked in the studio. You've
Yeah.
got a microphone. You've got this book in front of you, and you're doing multiple different ways of each page. And basically, then you're handing over your offers to the director or the author and saying, and they pick the best one. So, what was your experience of audiobooks?
Yeah. So with audiobooks, it's so basically the way that I've experienced it is that I haven't got my home studio. I go into a studio to record. So
Okay.
I and pretty much you're kind of like, yeah, locked in a room, but there's some comfort in that. Like you're kind of in this dark room with like cozy little blanket or whatever, and like you're kind of just doing this a one person show, it feels like, really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of delightful because you get to do all these different characters, and like it's so easy to, in a sense, to have this one person show because you don't have to do anything. You're just literally sitting there saying it all, and you get to play people, you know, everyone, the men, the women, the kids, the everything. And it's so fun. And the challenge I found with it was making sure that I'm prepared enough so that I can then be creative, because it's sort of like, I felt like they're kind of like mountains. Like you really do have to sort of kind of, I found personally, read it through and understand it, and have as much kind of like familiarity with the book, so that when you come to narrating it, you can have as clear a road as possible, because it is quite an intense physical experience because you're narrating all day. So for example, I would do like a 9:30 to 5:30 day, or a 9:30 to 4:30 day, with like a break in the middle. So you're kind of sometimes narrating for 6-7 hours a day, and you're just talking, and just as a muscle, it's so interesting because I found that my mouth would just start coming out with these random words, and I'm reading the word in front of me, but it's almost like overworking a muscle. It is quite an ask of your body and mind,
Yeah.
and so it can be challenging, but I think if when I'm prepared enough, it's quite fun. um, and what happens is I just kind of do it, and the engineer is often playing the role of, you know director, but they don't really direct it. They kind of let you, in my experience, they just let you get on with it. And if something sounds a bit wrong, or if something sounds off, or you make a mistake, they'll come in and they'll help you out, or they'll make a suggestion. And then it gets sent off to the writer and to the publishers, to see if it's right, for them and everything. Yeah, but it's super fun. One of my friends, very good friends, narrates audiobooks, and she kindly helped me so much. She helped me get a reel. She recorded it for me. She edited it for me, and she really like gave me a way in. She opened the door to audiobook world for me. So yeah, it's really
Fantastic.
cool.
Yeah. I just got this image of like you sending off like your files to the like director or something like that. And maybe if there was like an outtake or something where like, and the man approached oh shit, no, it's the wrong line. And you start again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. That happens all the time. Like, and also just random words. Like, you're like, and then the bucket. And then the person, sorry, you said bucket, says ball. And you're like, no, like, obviously I'll do it. But in my head, I'm like, I definitely said ball.
Yeah.
And then when you listen to it back, you're like, oh my God, in a million years, I could have put money down on the fact that I didn't say that. But it's because like there's only so much your brain can keep up with your mouth. Do you know what I mean? Like this,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
literally speaking out loud all day. So yeah.
Yeah. So when people go, like, you said this, and no, I didn't. And then you play it back and you go, how did I not realize that? And it's like, oh,
Yeah, exactly. You're like, how did I not even, I wouldn't have even, I would have put money down on the fact that I didn't say that. So yeah, it's really funny, but yeah, it's good fun. It's great.
oh yeah, no, it sounds great. So am I right in thinking that, I mean, from the titles, they sound like kids' books. Were they kids' books or were they?
I did a different, like a range of different books. I did like with the RNIB, I did a few kids' books, and and then I've done some like chick lit, Love on the Menu, and like a children's a teenage fantasy book called Spice Road, and then also information books, non-fiction books. Um, yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. And they sound fun. They sound fun.
Yeah, they are. And also you kind of get to learn about this different subject as well. Like I did one about basically about period health for women. And it was an entire book about called Period Problems. And it
Ah,
was revelatory because it's something that I just don't think is talked about that much. And including myself, I don't, there are things that I thought I knew and I was like, oh my God, okay. And yeah, I just probably wouldn't have like taken the time to learn about that if
yeah,
I hadn't done that audiobook. So yeah, it's kind of cool in that way.
yeah. You could be like the female Stephen Fry or something going forward to the next big franchise or something.
I love that. I'm definitely putting that out into the universe. The female Stephen Fry. I'd be
Yeah,
well up for that.
yeah. I don't know
I
about
need
you,
to
but
read about 1,000 more books, I think, to be anywhere near Stephen Fry.
yeah, it's all good. Did you ever? Because I grew up listening to the Harry Potter books with Stephen's voice and stuff, and that was kind of my first introduction to audio work. And just Mum would put the tape on, and I would just fall asleep. Um,
Oh,
yeah, which is good. Did you grow up on Stephen Fry and Harry Potter?
I did listen to a little bit of Harry Potter. I didn't kind of grow up on it. I'm a little bit older, so I don't think I grew up on it, but I did revisit them as an ad. I mean, as in, I visited them as an adult. I hadn't come across it in childhood, so I read the books as an adult and absolutely loved them, and
Mm,
also loved the films. And then listened to a bit of Stephen Fry. And a friend of mine used to listen to it, even when we were at uni. She would listen to it, just fall asleep. I
mm,
think he's got such a comforting voice, hasn't he?
yeah, he's very good. He's
His
very
whole thing, yeah, he's awesome. So
cool. If there's a book,
yeah.
if there's a classic book that you'd like to or play or whichever kind of genre that you'd like, is there one book that you would love to be the voice of?
Wow, I've never thought about that. That's so interesting. Um, Maybe a Roald Dahl book.
Good shout. Good shout.
Yeah, I'd love to narrate, not Roald Dahl.
Which one?
Yeah. Danny the Champion of the World,
Oh, that's a very
or
good
Charlie
shout.
and the Chocolate Factory, I think. Or
Charlie
Matilda. It's hard
Matilda.
to decide. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Danny the Champion of the World. I forgot.
Oh, it's just such a good book.
Oh God. I used to read Roald Dahl all the time as a kid. Absolutely
Yeah.
loved those. Yeah, Matilda's a good one. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's got to be another one. I'm missing one. Fantastic Mr. Fox. Of course.
Oh, fantastic, Mr. Fox, yeah. And James and the Giant Peach.
Oh my God, yes.
So good.
We're just geeking
The
out over Roald
Twits. The
Dahl now.
Twits makes me feel like a kid.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think that
absolutely.
must have had that read to me or something at school.
Yeah. So the entire works of Roald Dahl.
Basically, the entire works of Roald Dahl. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Say if their agency gets in touch with you, Krupa, we need you to do all these books. Are you in or out?
yeah. I'd be like, in.
I'm there. I'm recording one right now. But
Yeah, yeah.
brilliant stuff. So in terms of Honeycomb Lodge, actually is a
Mm.
film that sadly I haven't seen it as such, but it's familiar with me. I remember hearing about it and stuff like that. And yeah, sorry I haven't been able to see it or
Oh
get
no, no, no,
around
no.
to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that film felt like part of our society, and people were aware of it
Wow.
and stuff. So tell me about that film because it sounds. The reason why I asked because it sounds familiar, but yeah, what was your experience in films?
Wow, it's really nice to hear that it sounds familiar because it was such an independent film. I wasn't sure how much people would be aware of it, so it's just really nice to hear that. It's about a women's shelter called Honeycomb Lodge, which is for victims of domestic abuse or abuse, basically,
Okay.
and people that are fleeing environments and for a place of physical safety. It's about this group of women and their stories, and yeah. It's written by Surendra Kochar, who sadly isn't with us anymore, and inspired by, I think, some of her experiences, but also just experiences that she was aware of. And a lot of it is about it's not solely about, because Chloe was on it. That's how I met Chloe Wade, through Honeycomb Lodge,
Ah,
and kept her ever since. And she has a story in it. She was incredible in it. But it's largely centered on the Asian community as well. A lot of the women in the shelter are Asian. And yeah, I played a character who is from India, comes to this country to get married, and it turns out her husband has already got a wife or a girlfriend who's in a serious relationship with, and he becomes quite abusive, physically abusive towards her, and she has to end up fleeing that house. Um, yeah, it was dark stuff, but it was really cool because I kind of, it's just really cool to be a part of it, because I suppose again it's sort of quite an impactful subject matter,
mm,
just bringing people's pain to life, I suppose, but kind of giving it shedding some light on things that have happened to people.
yeah. And in terms of like, because you mentioned there, it sounds like a tricky subject, and I can imagine you probably had some really tough scenes to film and as such. And the reason why I ask is because having sort of done screen acting and stuff like that, and it's not so much what you're on stage doing, because on stage there's much more of you that's of your body, you're more out there and stuff. Whereas with film, it's kind of much more kind of it's a lot more taken down. It's a lot more condensed down. I remember I was speaking to someone about movement and stuff, Rachel, about just condensing stuff down on camera and stuff. And so
Yeah,
the one thing that I've sort of found was that I'm constantly asking myself, am I doing too little? Am I doing too little? So
right, yeah, yeah.
when it comes to scenes like that, how do you kind of
Wow.
finding that for the camera as well as getting the visceral reaction? I mean, I would imagine some of the scenes that you had to do, it's trying to be big and subtle at the same time. How did you find that?
Do you know, yeah, it was a while ago, so I was sort of a few years out of drama school, I think. It was earlier on in my career, and I hadn't done a lot of film.
Okay.
And I do remember the director, Leslie Manning, going, "You don't have to do as much as you think you do." And I was like, huh.
Huh.
Because I
Interesting.
I do think that at the time I felt like I had to kind of, I didn't realize I was doing it, but I didn't trust that what was going on internally was enough. And what I notice with camera work now is that it is simply enough if you are really feeling it and really kind of in that scene with the other character or communicating with whoever, the camera magically picks up the feeling of it, which I think is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
You don't have to do much, as in, like, on stage, whatever emotion it is, you've got to amplify it so you can bring it to the people. Like, not just, I mean, it is essentially you're just feeling the same thing, but you have to make it big enough. I just always think about it as if you're telling a story in a pub, and it's like, who do you want to tell? Like your best friend, who you're in like a really one-to-one conversation with, where it's enough just to feel it? Or are you telling this big story for the whole pub and you need everyone to hear it across the room? I don't know why that makes sense to me. And I suppose it depends on the subject matter, but like it's enough what I've realized. And also it was a learning curve in that show, because there are really melodramatic moments in, because the trauma that she goes through, there is physical abuse that happens. And I remember doing it and thinking, just learning like how much was needed and how much wasn't. And what I would say now, having experienced what I've experienced, is that it's enough to feel it. And the way that I kind of like validate that is when I help friends with self-tapes or whatever, and I watch their stuff too, because otherwise you can get it's kind of hard to just watch yourself all the time, I find.
Yeah.
Because obviously you have a view of yourself, so it's kind of impeded by that sometimes. But watching other people where you can kind of take a step back, I realized, I was like, oh my God, like I watched them do it in the scene and I felt something as a reader or a character with them. But then when I watch it as an audience member, I feel something else, because I feel that the camera picks up on their inner world, and that all they did really was be in the scene with me. And there's stuff that I might not have picked up when I was watching them in the scene. But when I watch it on camera, I'm like, it picked up what you were intending, not what you're communicating to me that I'd be picking up in real life from you, but what you wanted, what your inner world is. You know what I mean? Like, so does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I realized that it is enough to feel it.
Yeah.
And with the big scenes, I guess I'm just feeling bigger things. And the reason it's bigger is because it is bigger. Like the emotion is bigger, and it's like a more traumatic event or a more extreme emotion in that moment.
That's brilliant. I never heard it sort of summed up in that way. So that's really, really good.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, and I think, like you say, the camera picks up. And one thing that a lot of people said to me was like, the camera does the work for you. I was like, and I remember at the beginning
yeah.
thinking, what does that mean?
I did never understood that. I never
Yeah.
understood. I only understand that now.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think especially because, I think there was one time I did a monologue. I think one of my favorite monologues of all time is from a play called The Caretaker. Do you know The Caretaker? It's by Harold Pinter.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah,
You have to remind me of the storyline.
it's about Ashton and Mick, two brothers. They've got this flat in London, and
Right.
Mick's working around the clock trying to get it all up and repaired and refurbished and stuff while working, I think, a job at the same time. And
Yeah.
Aston's recovering from electroshock therapy, and he's
Wow.
it's a huge story,
Oh my
and
God. Wow.
and one night Ashton brings home a tramp that he found on the street called Davies, and Davis it's a beautiful thing about Pinter. I've talked about Pinter a lot on this show. Is about
Yeah.
how there's like a power struggle between these three characters, and Davis is
Right.
like this emotionally manipulative guy who's saying, "Look, I'm the victim. You've got to bring me in. Look at me. I've been sleeping on the streets. I need help." And Aston's brain is not 100% because he's had electric shock therapy, so he's not thinking straight. Anyway, so at the end of Act Two, he has this a phenomenal monologue where he basically talks about what happened to him that night, and the
Wow.
without giving, I suppose it doesn't really give anything away really. Because I'll just say it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't. It's not a huge like plot decider or anything, but it's just the language and Pinter's because he was a poet beforehand. You can tell the way he's written it, and he wrote this piece, and it's basically him going. And particularly like when he talks about afterwards, he has this very lovely staccato, really kind of blunt way of putting it. So at first I was like, when you pick up a script and you go, "What? Why is it written that way? I don't get it." And then
Yeah.
when you practice it, you sort of go, there's one line where he goes, "I couldn't think at all. I couldn't get my thoughts together." Just like that.
Mm.
And it's just that
Mm.
one little image, really. And the reason why I brought it up is because I did it for a
Wow.
screen acting class, and I remember the first time I did it, it was literally like I was on speed, just going
Yeah.
the whole way through. And then the guy sort of, I can't remember his name, but he said, "Okay, right, just stop." Or he just, okay, go through, do it again. see the image first and then talk. And I was like, okay, so
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
see the image of what you're going to say or what you're thinking about, and then say the line.
Mm.
And I did it again, and the guys in the group, they were very sweet. They gave me a good round of applause and stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it was a very good reaction. And I just sat there and just thought, I mean, the first thing that went through my head was, I don't know if you've had this experience with Honeycomb Lodge or any other character that you've played, but
Mm.
you sit there and think, my God, this guy's been through some shit. And, yeah, and you think, oh wait, no,
Yeah.
that was me. And excuse me. But
Yeah,
yeah,
totally. Yeah, I
I don't
do
know.
know
Have
what
you
you
ever had
mean.
that experience with characters before?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when I was playing Jess Core. Yeah, I remember there was a one scene where we did the court case, and it was it was in a real courtroom, and I was behind the glass. So I was essentially the what's it called, the perpetrator, or the person that's being accused. And it's at the point in the series where I think we did all the court scenes on one day, so it went through all the different, when she's innocent and when she's let off the hook. But the
Mm,
point was is that it was in a real courtroom. So behind the glass, there's the stand that you stand on, this upstairs bit. Then there are stairs, and the
mm.
stairs go down to holding cells, which
Uh,
is prison, basically.
yeah.
It felt so medieval, but that's real. And I was too scared to go downstairs, but I went downstairs, and I didn't really stick around too long. But it was really eerie. I felt like I could hear water dripping. It felt like this abandoned place. But like it felt like there were kind of like windowless rooms with front, like the doors that you have in your house.
Mm,
There's no It's just something eerie about it. It was like a horror film. Like they were just like plain white doors with locks on them, but like not like elaborate front door locks, like just like the lock that you would have inside a house.
mm.
And it was just like these really eerie looking rooms that were completely barren and like had dripping water, I'm sure of it, somewhere inside there. And just like it was so like that the people that are in those cells have been taken out of society. Like you are an outcast when you're downstairs in those cells, and when you come upstairs you're being considered for society, like whether you're going to be cast out or not. It's such a horrific thing, just even that situation to go through, that I was and just thinking that on the other side of the glass is your family, your friends, your job, your whole life is on the other side of that fucking glass. Sorry to swear.
No, no, you can.
And
Fuck it. Go for it.
thanks. And I was so bowled over about that. And I remember getting quite emotional on the day, and the medical lady going, "You all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, fine." But like I was like, that I think that's one of the first times that it's really like the scale of it's really hit me with a character. I'm like, I can't even begin to imagine. I don't even want to, because it's so painful. It's just what she went through is horrific, and she is incredible for coming out the other side.
Mm.
And her whole family is. And it really hit me that day that I was just like, I'm so lucky to have my freedom. You know what I mean? Like even went outside at the break and had some salt and vinegar hula hoops or something. I was like, so lucky
Yeah.
that I get to
Yeah.
do this, like sit in the sunshine and eat these hula hoops. Like some people don't have their freedom, and it's a miscarriage of justice. They
Yeah.
should have their freedom. And yeah, so yes, I do relate to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. You look, who'd have thought, you look down at, people say it's the small things and the little things in life. You look
Yeah.
down at a bag of salt and vinegar hula hoops, and like that just is enough to make you cry. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not taking the piss or anything here now.
No. Yeah.
But yeah, you look at these
No,
things.
no, yeah, totally. I'm with you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just like, remember after Ashton's monologue, I thought, my God, this guy's gonna have this in his head for the rest of his life. And just very quickly, the reason why I think he ended up in this, ended up in an asylum, I think, and the reason was because he had some sort of strange dreams or something like that, and he said, I had dreams where I saw stuff. And he told the guys he worked at the factory with, I think it was a factory he worked at, they would go for coffee and tea in the local cafe afterwards.
Mm,
He told them that story, and then a few of them started to gossip and sort of thinking about, and they go, "What's wrong with him? He's fucking weird."
mm.
And then next thing you know, one person says something too much to somebody else, and then they come on his door saying, right, we have reason to believe you're mentally ill. You need to come to the asylum, and drag him out, kicking and screaming to this thing, and he's never the same again. And it could have been just a perfectly harmless dream. He just wanted someone to talk to about it. But the way that his co-workers just completely contorted the whole thing is just, and then you think to yourself, wow, I think I've still got my health. I'm still all good.
Mm.
We're a lot more luckier than we think, which is, yeah. This is what the arts does, guys. It makes us really happy. It's really important, yeah. And on that note,
Mm.
we'll jump into one of the two things I really want to talk to you about today, and we'll
Yeah,
start with this thing right here, As She Likes It. Something that I've talked to Chloe Wade, who's also been on the show. Hello, Chloe. It's a story about the deep rabbit hole in Hollywood dating back to the 1920s, where an actress who, a Hollywood dancer, Patricia Douglas, no, yeah, is that right? Is it still Hollywood Patricia Douglas? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Patricia Douglas goes to an MGM party in the 1920s and is abused at this party, and she wants to bring her perpetrators to justice, and sadly, her case gets flung out, squashed. You don't know what you're talking about, go away. Unfortunately, it's something that's still quite familiar in this day and age, which we are looking to eradicate for good. So you played a character called Damsel in Distress, which I was lucky to see. Congratulations on a great performance. Uh,
thank you.
and yes, tell me about how you found out about the job. So I know you met Chloe through Honeycomb Lodge. Did she sort of call you up and go, "Hey, I've got this play. Do you want to be in it?"
Do you know what? I'm so lucky because yeah, she did. Like,
Yeah.
and I came on board last minute because there had to be a change in casting due to illness. So I literally came on board on the Friday and we started rehearsals on Monday.
Oh, wow.
So I heard about it completely because of Chloe. And I was there when she was sort of in the process of producing it and getting it started and writing it. And I just feel really lucky. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I got to do it with my friend, and I can't believe that she asked me.
Yeah, I think your character symbolized. There's one scene in particular I remember speaking about with Chloe. Is towards the end, you get an idea of the kind of seedy and, quite frankly, disgusting Hollywood meetings that more and more people in Hollywood are starting to talk about now, which is brilliant. And keep it coming, keep it coming. And about how I remember you sat there. It was just a brilliant theater, not only just from the writing or message point of view, but it was just you and a voiceover, and this voiceover just gets seedier and seedier and seedier, and asking you to do, like, take your clothes off. What would you do if we did this? And what was that scene in particular like to play every night?
Um, yeah, it was interesting. I guess like it was just I guess it was like a oh gosh, it's really hard to articulate. It's a very traumatic scene for the character
Yeah,
because
yeah,
she is essentially being like very sexually harassed and threatened when she's on her own and in a locked room. And she enters a business meeting and ends up possibly almost being sexually assaulted.
yeah,
And so it's a traumatic event. And so as an actor, you have to just be careful to sort of separate it from yourself and deliver for the character.
yeah,
So it was a sensitive subject to deliver
yeah,
every night, but it was very supported by the people around me and also by the show. So at the point that because I play damsel in distress and I have the character is very practical and like basically wants to be an action hero and kind of has done kind of actiony stuff. So is like really like very practical about things. Like, don't worry about it, kid. Like, you just got to get on with it and watch out for the bad stuff and just keep your head above water and like you keep doing you kind of thing and really like positive and practical.
yeah,
Kind of a little bit unflappable, really. And so then seeing her in that position was really interesting, but felt very apt for the play. And I think I felt quite supported by the journey towards that moment. So as an actor, it made sense and was great to play. And to do the character, it was a challenge, but really satisfying because it kind of made sense of the subject for me is that it can happen to anyone, no matter how together a person seems, how like successful and practical they seem, and how in control. they're not, if somebody is going to hurt them intentionally, then that can happen to them too. And I think it was really important to show that sort of one of the strongest characters in the play, seemingly unflappable, is also it's also possible to hurt them if someone wants to hurt them, if they're in a position of if somebody is abusing power around them. So I don't know how. It was brilliant to play, really, in the weird way that actors feel about things, I guess. But yeah, it was a meaty scene.
It was. It really, really was. And I think we were talking before we came on. So imagine like people kind of sitting in their seat normally. So I was just watching you do this, and as that scene went on, it just went like this, just got back, 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 back. And I thought, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then it was a very good commentary on just what has gone on behind closed doors, and like no, yeah. So it's just it was a really good, it was a fantastic play about really opening your eyes to like it's almost like you guys were saying, look at it, this is what's happening, this is what's
Wow, that's so nice to hear that.
yeah,
Yeah.
very good. And I'm just curious to know, because you worked with a fantastic dramaturg is it Morgan Lloyd Lawson,
Malcolm.
Malcolm
Malcolm, yeah.
Lloyd Malcolm, yes, thank you. And just everything about it. I'm just curious to know about the rehearsal room and everything, because in rehearsal room there's a lot of discussion about the play
Mhm.
as well as rehearsing it as well. What was kind of the key things that you guys were discussing in the rehearsal room?
Actually, it was the practicality. We didn't have a lot of rehearsal time, so it was a
Okay.
practicality. We had 2 weeks for quite a complex
Oh, fair
play.
enough.
So yeah, so most of it was practically getting it on its feet and making sense of it. So a lot of it was instinctual and very collaborative with the director, and we also had a movement director come in, and it was very much a collaboration with everyone in the room, and kind of whatever we could do to empower this play in the time that we had. So we didn't always have loads of time for discussion, which was a shame because there's so much to discuss.
Mm,
But we kind of just went with instinct and found our way. And yeah, that was it. And what was interesting is kind of just the conversations we'd have in like coffee breaks, or I suppose once we were on tour, when we had time together, just to chat about the themes of it and stuff. And just there's some scenes in it where I would just be watching as a spectator, like whilst people were rehearsing, and kind of be bowled over by it. So I was like, oh my God, I've heard that conversation on set. And it's a kind of toxic conversation going on.
yeah.
And there's so many things I was like, that's so normalized. Like, because I've heard that, I've experienced that weird thing, and it's, it was, what I think was really interesting is because we didn't have, everyone just had to do their own preparation because this time is limited. But for me personally, I felt like a lot of my prep came from life experience and kind of how much it vibed true, which I think contributed to the process really, because it was kind of about how real is this danger now, and how much do we need to consider it now, and even just Chloe having written that and putting it on stage and watching other actors perform it, I was like, oh my God, like it's mind blowing how much I've normalized actually. And what it helped me do as a person, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent here, but like, it helped me kind of develop a new filter because it's so powerful. Like
Mm,
I think there are unhealthy conversations probably, and toxicity that happens in every different kind of workplace. But in terms of a rehearsal room or a set, I was like, interesting how much I've normalized, because watching it now and watching it being highlighted as something I was wrong, I'm realizing that I may have normalized some of that. And the whole play is kind of about saying to a victim of sexual harassment, I believe you and I'm with you and I will fight and kill that dragon with you, And it's interesting what someone saying and doing that every single night does to your psyche. Because now when I watch films, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe how it's a different experience. Like I watched a film called The 355, which is Jessica Chastain and a group of women sort of being secret agents and spies and assassins and stuff, and kind of going on this adventure and doing a job basically. And it was really interesting. They sort of subverted like what would be the male gaze, I suppose, in the film, and it was the females that were kind of at the center of it. And I was so satisfying to see that, because I was like, I think I would have experienced that differently had before I did this play, because it was so progressive. And when I watched it, I was like, thank God, like this is what I need. But I wonder if I'd seen it before the play, if I would have been like, oh, I get it, but like, do you really have a point? Which I'm loath to admit, but not completely. But do you know what I mean? Like, there's definitely things that I think I've normalized that are toxic, and what doing the play kind of helped me unpack that and realize I didn't need that anymore.
Mm. Oh yeah, completely. Yeah, I think
Mm.
we need plays like this to kind of show that before it was like, oh, we thought that was okay, and then afterwards it's like that really wasn't okay. What was I doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Just the little things and how there's one line in the play I remember in particular. I don't think it wasn't your character who said it, there was a line in it which kind of summed it up perfectly. I think someone is basically speaking out against what they've been through, and
Mm.
they're going, you know, like, this is unfair, this is not good enough. And one of the because it was an all-female cast, but one of your cast was playing a sort of a male Hollywood director in that scene, and
Yeah,
they said there's a time and a place for a tongue like that.
yeah.
It was like, what? And I thought, someone speaks up and they go, there's a time and a place for something like that, for a tongue like that. And I thought,
Yeah.
it's like, right, okay. But I think
Mm.
before, and I think some people might have heard that and just gone, oh, did I speak out of line? Oh, Christ, what have I done? It's all my fault. It's like, no, no, you did the right thing. They're showing their true colors right now by being this
Mm.
fucking awful prat over there. Is for going, you know, just shut up. Like, and if you're
Yeah,
not part of my group, then you're not part of anything. Now go away.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
no, fuck you. It's like, get me.
Yeah, absolutely. It was exactly that. And it was nice to
Yeah,
have someone empower you and go, no, fuck them, right? You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like, don't question yourself, like, fuck them. And
yeah.
it was like so, it was almost like every single night getting that again and again, again was like, cool. Okay, now I feel it. I know
Mm.
where I'm supposed to be mentally, but now I feel it and I feel good for that.
Yeah, I think, you know, you mentioned there about you know, you didn't have a lot of time for discussion in rehearsals. Like it was like as soon as you got in, it was like, okay, rehearse, 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 and
Yeah,
we
get it
went with a
done.
lot of time. But say like you're back in the room with Chloe and the whole cast now, a dramaturg, director, everything. If there's one thing or one subject that you didn't want to, or didn't get round to talking about in the rehearsal room, then you know, since been a part of this play, you know, but you've been on a UK tour of it recently.
Mm.
If there's one subject, you probably already mentioned it already, but one thing that you'd like to discuss that you didn't get to discuss in the rehearsal room, what would that be?
Wow, that is such a good question. Um, for Damsel, there's this relationship with, I play Damsel in Distress,
Yeah.
and she has a relationship to the characters on stage, but she also has a relationship to the audience, and she also has a relationship to the gods or something. She
Hmm.
has like different people that she speaks to. And I think for me, I'd like to explore that more, because it was like there was this relationship with a good force up there that wanted good things. But then it gets confusing at some point in the play, and she can't make sense of what's good and what's not, because everything is too challenging in the world that she's in. And I don't know completely what that is, but there's something in that that I think I would like to explore more, because I think that's really interesting. Um, and the idea that she's like this sort of angel, like guardian angel watching over the girl next door. The story follows a protagonist called Girl Next Door, played by Chloe Wade. And as you know, or Lisa, I'm just saying this for people that
No, 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 of course. Yeah.
listening. And it's interesting. Damsel in Distress is sort of a narrator and a commentator, sometimes participates in the action, but essentially is narrating and kind of guiding Girl Next Door through the story. And so occasionally she jumps in and she's kind of a guardian angel when she needs to be for Girl Next Door. And I guess I would like to explore that element more, because it kind of allows people to have like just a little bit of a step back from the situation and kind of like come in and out of it. With the audience can like be with Damsel in Distress for a bit and be like, okay, so let's think about what we've just seen there, and then also be with the characters. And I really liked that. I really like being able to step out of it. So I think I'd like to explore that element of it more. And if we had, please let us have the opportunity to explore it again. I would like to definitely talk about that more.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. This play got a lot of really great reactions, I think, because from not only just like from myself, but also a lot of because I went to the press night, and then you got a lot of lovely reviews all on your Instagram page for this, particularly for this play. I'm curious about the tour because I remember when I interviewed Chloe, you guys were kind of mid-tour. I think you were in Huddersfield at the time, and
Yeah.
so now you've finished the run, and until it comes back, will what was your experience of reactions from meeting audience members afterwards, or people who got in touch after they saw the show?
Um, really positive. And I I think some people, from what I understand from secondary information from other people that had people in. So my most of my understanding of the show was from people that I knew that came to watch it. And then I would sort of get secondary information from people who also had people come to watch it. And I didn't really speak to a lot of audience members about their personal reaction, but I heard about it, and there was a lot of positive reaction to it in terms of like people just feeling, I think particularly women feeling heard and feeling something profound that's kind of probably hard to put into words, but just like, yes, yes, like that feels really good. Like, I love this thing. Yeah, yeah. And I had lots of female friends come and see it, and they were loving it. And my brother came to see it, and he loved it. And I think there were some people that saw it that found it challenging, which was interesting because it was a very provocative piece. And I think it does kind of hopefully it is a provocation. It's inviting a feedback because it's kind of quite provocative. And so
Yeah.
sometimes that feedback did come up. And I thought that was interesting because it really is talking about something difficult. And I think that it was good that it did. And I think what's great is that Chloe was so about that. Especially there were venues that some venues we went to where the audiences, I suppose, seemed a bit more conservative. And so in their views, maybe, I don't know. And so we had different reactions. And she really liked it when we had like kind of unsure reactions, because I think then the work is actually happening of the play, which is to challenge things. And I think that it was moving people in a positive way, but sometimes it moved people in a challenging way. And I think that from what I understand, I think Chloe was happy about that, but I felt happy about that too. So I felt like, yeah, it's actually making an impact. There is a reason for talking about this, and it's landing. I think it is actually landing. So yeah, that was my experience of it.
Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Yeah, it was a very good thing because like we can have these conversations about Me Too and
Yeah,
Me Too, maybe the Harvey Weinstein arrest and everything. Um, and Hollywood in general, like there's a side to it which I think more and more people are kind of waking up to now, is that it's not the glitz and glamour of Hollywood as we once knew it. There is a bit of a seedy undercurrent which thankfully is being more and more exposed.
yeah,
And I remember watching the film She Said last year, or just a couple of years
yeah,
ago, which I know Chloe actually watched as inspiration when she was writing it. Uh,
yeah,
and yeah, it's just we just need to. I think I remember saying because I remember on the press night you had a Q&A on stage afterwards,
yeah,
and I think I remember saying to you guys that we've just got to keep digging into this rabbit hole and just keep exposing all
yeah,
these fuckers until they're all out, and hang them out to dry and let them sit in a jail cell and let them think about what they've done, or maybe they won't even think about doing because they've done because they're all fucking psychopaths. But we just get them out there, get them out of society, and just make it a much better place. And it starts with things like the Me Too movement and this play, and your performances as well. And so I think a lot of people owe you guys a lot of thanks for that, because even though it is a tough watch and it is a provocative piece, like you say, but those are the pieces which are trying to tell us something. They're trying to tell us something
mm,
like, we know this is difficult, but unfortunately, it's the truth. It's like we wouldn't tell you this if it wasn't the truth. And sadly,
yeah.
it has to be brought to light and brought to justice. And so, yeah, I think you guys are really, really onto something here. And I hope it comes back. I hope you get a West End run or something, something
Wow, thank
London,
you.
so London audiences can see this. And
Yeah.
make their own minds up and stuff. Because I know it was at the Greenwich Theatre, which is London, I know,
Yeah,
but more and more people can
no, thanks for saying that.
come and see
Yeah.
this. But yeah, but I suppose if Chloe, if that was the case, you've got the, I don't know, the Gielgud Theatre. 3 months, you get a phone call from Chloe saying, "Hey, we've got the Gielgud Theatre. 3 months. Do you want to come back and be damsel in distress?"
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that so much. That would be so cool.
Yeah, well, it's a fantastic piece, and I hope you bring it back. I really hope you do, and to see
Thank
it again.
you.
And I think just a quick aside, really.
Mhm.
I don't know if you had this experience because you've been on tour with it, but I suppose was your experience of the character of damsel in distress, at the very beginning compared to that final show and the journey that you went on, was it almost like chalk and cheese, or was it like the journey that you've
Oh,
been?
interesting. Do you know what? It wasn't so far as chalk and cheese, but there were definite shifts for me because I feel like it was developing certain like physical things like a relationship with the audience. I think I got more and more comfortable with that because there was a lot of direct audience address and sort of she played a kind of like go between the audience and the actors in a way because the fourth wall was broken all the time.
Yeah.
And so she would be the kind of like pinpoint of that because she was kind of like guiding that. And so uh I definitely felt like that I got more and more comfortable with. And in terms of like the experience of the content, I think I just became more and more, it sounds very obvious to say, but familiar with it. But it kind of just settled into me in a sense that I think it kind of created new filters like we were talking about. And I think that affected my portrayal. But essentially she seemed quite central, like she didn't change too much because she's quite a practical person, which I found really interesting. Is that this character, she's like, got to get it done, just get it done, like I found that really interesting. She doesn't get sidetracked, she just is very practical and very forward movement, high energy, all about making things happen. And I loved that, and that part of her didn't change. And what I think I understood more and more as we went on is that she still can be taken advantage. I knew that already, but what became kind of more profound to me is like she's so practical, and then that change where she's kind of being taken advantage of became more and more heartbreaking. I think, or more and more effect, not heartbreaking actually, but like more. I felt more about it, I think, as it went on because she's always practical, but she's just as vulnerable as everyone else. And I just think that was the beauty for me. That was the beauty of the piece because I feel like Chloe didn't take any prisoners, and she's like, "This is the situation. We need to talk about it."
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. I think, yeah, I want the show to come back now. I want to see it again. But yeah, I'm not just saying that. Absolutely, I do. Yeah, I think you've articulated that just brilliantly. About one question I should have asked is, who is she to you? And of course, I think you've answered that already. There's the
Oh,
person that, like you say, she had this grit and determination, and it's funny because suddenly how someone who's so strong-minded also like this opens up another thing to say. When you've got a character who's so strong-minded that somehow even they have their limits, even they have their boundaries can be crossed in a way, particularly in this scene. And it was interesting to see how such a strong character can suddenly just go a bit, a bit unnerved, and suddenly they're being pushed, and you're like, what's going on here? And shows
mm,
like the vast, well, evilness of what he's been doing. It can even push a really strong character to their limit and make them feel something which you wouldn't expect them to feel and stuff. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but like you say, the truth and all that stuff. And again, like, you played it superbly well, and it was an honor watching that and watching all of you guys do it. And I hope that the play comes back on the biggest stage, and we spread this word farther and farther across the world.
Wow, amazing. Thank you, Oliver. That's
And
awesome.
yeah, I look forward to the day. And I think another thing that you've been a part of over the last year is 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 potentially the one of the biggest shows on television that we've had for the last few years, and of course that is Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, and
Mhm.
it was a brilliant, brilliant show about the and possibly the. I've got a little summary of it here. So these are not my words. This is the internet's words. I'm paraphrasing here. So whoever's got this. So it was the extraordinary story of the greatest miscarriage of justice in British legal history, where hundreds of innocent sub-postmasters and postmistresses were wrongly accused of theft, fraud, and falsely accounting due to a defective IT system. And I remember seeing it, and it's literally centers around one little event where a bit of IT equipment. I can't remember all the details exactly, but they were basically saying how much money that they'd made that day or how much had gone into the system or something.
Mhm. Mhm.
Went faulty, and the system said they owed more than what they actually did. And so
Yeah.
instead of launching an official investigation into the technology they were using, they blamed all the postmen, all the postwomen. They said, "This is your fault. Give us your life savings. We're not interested in anything else." And of
Mm.
families went bankrupt. People tried to get this subject to justice, and thankfully, because of art, again, drama, theatre, TV, film, we are alerted to this. And in recent weeks and months, more and more people have come forward, and this case has resurfaced again. And I forget when it was. When did it all kick off? Sorry, I probably should have known that. But
No, no. So the actual, I think the Horizon system was implemented 1991, 1995, something in the 1990s.
yeah,
Oh my God, I can't remember now, but I think it was in the 1990s for sure. Then the whole sort of court case and everything, well, the whole event from the time that
yeah,
it was implemented, I think it's 20 years that the whole thing's been going on,
yeah.
I
2000,
think. Or is
2009.
it
Yeah.
the 20 years that the trials have been going, that the prosecutions have been going on? But I mean, my maths, oh my gosh, I literally can't work it out right now. Anyway, but basically it started in the 90s, and the Horizon system was rolled out, and people had these computers fixed into their um, uh, post offices. I can't remember what it's got. It's basically the bit that's closed off, that's like the bank, where there's like a lock on the door, where you're behind glass as a sub postmaster. That's like that's where they had these terminals fixed in the Horizon computer systems, and they were completely faulty. And everyone that rang up, basically overnight, they would cash up, and the system would show an error and say that they had a shortfall, which was completely incorrect. They didn't, but it was showing up as a shortfall. And according to their contracts, they were personally liable for that money, and they could not open the post office the next day unless that money was cashing up. So they had to fill it from their own pocket. And because obviously the amounts that were coming through out of nowhere were like 4 grand, 5 grand, would then double. It was so random, and then lessen again, then double. Like they also couldn't access the system to see for themselves. They couldn't go back. Like they couldn't press the back button and review any of the transactions. They couldn't access it themselves. They just had to put up with whatever the computer was saying. So they rang this helpline, and when they rang the helpline, the person was like, "Great, so you're liable, and this is not happening to anyone else." And they'll be like, "But I haven't done anything wrong." And they're like, "Well, you're liable, so soz," so to speak. And then yeah, and people's post offices were shut down. They had like auditors come and basically in the middle of the day in front of their customers close them down, which is completely humiliating. And they're pillars of the community. They're supporting the community, and they were humiliated in front of that community and had everything taken away. And the drama focuses on 4 different stories, but essentially it's a version of what I think could have happened to a lot of is what's happened to a lot of people, and everyone has their different story and experience of it, but it all comes down to the faulty computer system.
Yeah.
Horizon, yeah.
Yeah. And just one tech issue suddenly led to people being bankrupt and people being blamed and people essentially hung out to dry because there's a part of me which sort of thinks this might be a little bit crazy, but they probably saw this opportunity for all this money to come their way, like the tech guys or whoever it was who had charged that money. and they've gone, so you owe us 20 grand. We want that money. So, and it's in your contract. We're not going to do anything about it, but we're going to take it anyway. But it's quite, so it was quite scary, that side of it, and obviously that's quite a weird way of looking at it. But yeah, people always have these weird ways of looking at things. So how did you find out about the job?
Yeah, I got an audition for it basically through my agent. So I auditioned for it through self tapes, and then there was an in-person audition with James Strong and Jill Trevellick, the casting director, and then that was it. And then and then we sort of found out about a week later or something. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, like we keep saying, the arts has this incredible impact of it. And I know we've talked about some like tricky stuff today and everything, but we were talking before we came on about the actual people or the family that you actually portrayed in this. And you had this brilliant story about how you met them and how just their courage and their happiness after everything that they've been through, and they've just kind of put it all behind, a bit like your character and as she likes it, actually. They've gone, shit's happened, but we're going to get on with it. So would you mind just telling that story again about how you met the family and
Yeah.
how you got to know them?
Yeah, sure. So I got to meet Jess and Pam. The story is about them basically, and Jess was a sub postmistress, and she, if you haven't seen the show, she went through a horrific ordeal where she was on trial for 3 years, and she didn't know if she was going to lose her freedom and have to leave her family and go to jail because she was being prosecuted wrongfully by the post office. So they've obviously, and it really affected Jess's mental health. She ended up having a couple of suicide attempts, one where she ended up in hospital, and then there was another suicide attempt in hospital. We portrayed some of this in the show, and she also went through electroshock therapy, so which has affected her memory to this day, and she's on a lot of medication still. So there are a lot of things that still affect her from this, and it's probably something that they'll never really be able to put behind them. But what was really lucky for me is I got to meet them. So we were sort of like probably a few days, maybe a week or so before we went into rehearsal, went into shooting. Me and the actor who played Permasha, her husband, Jazz in the show. So me and Amit Shah went and met Jess and Perm, and it was the week of their son's wedding. And in the show, it's about like 20 years ago or something, her son is like 12, and in real life, he was grown up and about to get married, and we went there on that week when he was about to get married, and the house was just like bustling with happy energy and like excitement, and like practical, like getting the place sorted because the wedding was about to take place. And it felt like a really fortuitous time to visit them, because it felt like even though they've been through this horrific thing that they'd probably have to deal with on a daily basis, they still, and they have in a sense come out the other side, and they're still choosing life, and they're still celebrating life. And it was really great personally to get to meet them at that point, because it was like great. And even though this horrific thing has happened, you have made it to a point where you're like, we still have our lives, and we're celebrating that, and we're really happy, and we're doing our best every single day, and like that, they just seem incredible in terms of their resilience and strength, which you were talking about. You mentioned the idea of strength, being able to do something like that and come out of something so horrific and still celebrate your life and celebrate the good things. And I just really got a sense of their strength that day.
Yeah.
And so also it was important to say they gave us like all these Indian snacks, and because it was the week of the wedding, they were like these big Punjabi samosas with like my favorite dips in the whole world, like coriander, like mint chutney, and like tamarind chutney and stuff, like, which is basically like one of my favorite things to eat in the whole world. And we had all these snacks, and then we got to have a serious chat with them about what had happened and everything. But it was just a really cool time to get to meet them.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said there, the current that runs through this show is obviously miscarriage of justice. It's Mr. Bates's fight, played brilliantly by Toby Jones, by the way, who is just an
Incredible.
incredible actor and someone I look up to very, very much. Um, just this incredible, just complete miscarriage of justice in British history. People not being listened to simply because of a little malfunction on a piece of technology. and it's cost people like their lives and stuff. And we were talking also about how like the people that you played and everything that they went through. I'm just remembering your scenes now. Actually, they've just kind of clicked back into my head. I think
Yeah, of course.
the husband leaves the house and leaves you there by yourself, and then next, I think in the following scene you see the police come around, and I think you're there in the blankets and stuff like that. I think I remember. Yeah, but was that right? Does my memory serve me correctly?
That's right. Yeah. So there is a scene where uh where there is a scene where you see Summon, the character, attempt to take her life,
Mm.
and then the ambulance comes in, and her husband comes in, realizes what's happening, calls for the ambulance, and the ambulance comes in. So it's a pretty intense scene. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty big, pretty big. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sort of talking about that. By the way, I'm very aware that was probably a very raw thing to talk about just then. But
Yeah. Thanks for,
um,
thanks for wanting to talk about it. I think it's important.
oh yeah, of course, yeah. No, just suddenly coming back to me now, and just all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah.
but despite all that, again, I want to be positive now towards the end now, which is to say that despite despite all this stuff that they've been through, and what was I found fascinating about your story, like before we came on, and then just now, is how just that they've still got a smile on their face. They've still got this courage to say, we've been through hell, but we've got through it now, and we're here now to talk about our story, and we're to continue fighting for justice, for what we believe and what we know is right in this situation. We should have been
Mm,
solved 20 years ago, but the
yeah,
assholes above us thought otherwise. And Yeah, it's an incredible testament to the human spirit and how it didn't let them break them, because there are sadly, again, sorry to be morbid, but there are a few people who portrayed in the series and of course in real life who sadly the stress and the sadness got too much for them, and they actually sadly did take their own lives because of this whole situation. But you guys, you and your character sort of really showed that there is strength even in the darkest and darkest of times. You can still be strong, and there is still something to fight for in a way, and that really echoed a lot throughout the whole thing.
wow, yeah, that's really cool to hear that.
Yeah,
I think it's I think you're absolutely right, and I think it is about the resilience. And the thing that I find tricky about it though is that when it got to that moment where she attempts to take her life, and this is slightly negative, but I promise I'll come back to the positive
yeah, yeah,
at
yeah.
the end. But it made sense. And I know that sounds really dark, but with the level of suffering that she had been through, her level of desperation made sense to me, and what her actions made sense. That's a really dark thing to say, but some people did lose their lives, and um, they should still be here. But I think it's just important to note how horrific it was. And even a really strong human spirit may not be able to deal with that, because it's just
Yeah.
beyond the realms of being able to deal with. But they do have, and you see it, not to give any spoilers, but I'm going to spoil it now. But if you haven't seen it, there are moments at the end, there are moments of hope, and I think they're really important, where there are wins, and we have to like acknowledge the wins, and they're still fighting it, but like you say, that hope is there, and the resilience is so important, because I guess you get to choose, isn't it, what how you view a situation. And it was really great to visit them that day when they had this happy time in their house, because it was like they're choosing to move ahead, and they're choosing themselves above the suffering. And it was really cool to see that and
Yeah.
witness that.
I wish I was there for that moment when you met her for the first time.
Oh wow.
Did she walk up to you and be like, "Thank you," but just give you a big hug?
She's so lovely. They're just so cool and just so like easygoing about everything. And it was all very practical. Like they were so busy because obviously they were organizing a wedding. So like, and our train was late. Like we got on, I don't know what happened. We got on some other train. Something happened, but we were late. And so they had to like, they made time for us when the week of their son's wedding. And then we were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And it was all just like, but they were like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And like, and so we got into the car, and like, they're like, yeah, great. Like, so it was like quite funny in a way, because it had to be quite practical, because they had to get it in. But at
Yeah.
the same time, they were also organizing one of like the biggest family events I imagined. Do you know what I mean? So, but they were so sweet and so welcoming and so easygoing. They didn't make us feel bad. They're so laid back. And like, they invited us to the wedding. They gave us sweets as we were leaving, and like this scarf that like it was like just part of the invitation, and like they're just, yeah, it was just beautiful. Yeah, it was amazing.
Fantastic. Did you have any idea just how much attention this show would get? Because it's really, really just taken off, and a lot of people are just like, I mean, to be perfectly honest, when I saw the title of the show, I thought Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. Me and my ignorance sort of went, Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. What's the guy from Downton Abbey doing with post offices? But
Probably a lot of people thought that, because I don't think a lot of people knew about the post office. Or they might have
yeah,
heard about it briefly on the news.
yeah,
But the times when, from what I understand, it was televised was perhaps when there might have been a win or something, like the convictions were being overturned or something at a certain
yeah,
point. I think 2019. And that I don't know the full spectrum of media coverage on it, but there was limited stuff that I think made it to the majority of people. So it was still like a relatively unknown subject. I think people were aware of it, but not the nuances of it and everything.
yeah,
Um, so I did not know that it would have the effect that it had. I was completely bowled over by it. I found it very affirming, and also just completely like fascinated by the fact of that it could have such an effect. Because I just thought that I did this show, and it had a kind of this sparkly, tingly feeling about it at the read through, because it was, I mean, just being at the table, the same table as Toby Jones and, Monica Dolan and just
yeah,
all of those actors. I was just like, I can't believe that I'm sat here. So that had a tingly feeling, but also
yeah,
the real sub postmasters were there, and it was just, it was an incredible event, the reading itself. And so it felt kind of like this is something important and significant beyond what normally happens, maybe.
yeah,
And and then I did it, and I just thought people would be like, oh yeah, the post office thing. Oh yeah, so there was something on the news about that, right? Like, I just thought people would be like, oh yeah, I think I get what you're talking about, that show. Yeah. I mean, if you're in it, I'll watch it. I thought that was the kind of response I would get. Not that there would be a public outcry. I just didn't imagine that could happen. It feels like something out of a storybook or
yeah.
something like in a film. I just can't believe it. And I was so like, I just thought that was incredible. And I was so happy, and I feel so special to be a part of that, and so privileged to be a part of it.
Yeah. Oh, it looked like one hell of a job to be part of, and I'm sure that I'd love to have been a part of it myself. I'm jealous. I won't lie, but but
Thank
it's
you. Thank you for
I
the
mean,
jersey.
oh yeah, no worries. But just very quickly, what was he like, Toby Jones? Did you get a chance to chat with him and
He was
stuff?
lovely. He was lovely, very professional,
Yeah,
and just very professional, got on with the job, but just really lovely, and
yeah.
just kind
He
of got
comes
on with it, really.
he comes
Yeah.
across as a real good guy. Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
a phenomenal actor as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
here's to opportunities in the
Yeah, he
future.
was.
Yeah, fantastic. Krupa, I know we are slightly pushed for time. I know you've got to shoot off and do other things. So we'll just sort of do the last few uh,
Yeah, sure.
questions now. But first of all, thank you for today. This has been absolutely great to not only just see you perform, but also to have you here along to talk about everything from audiobooks to Ashley Likes It to the Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, and just hearing just hearing your views on things. And there was some things today I'm like, yeah, I've never heard it sort of spoken that way before, which was really good. And so that's
Oh,
testament
thank
to
you,
your
Oliver.
experiences and everything. And yeah, and I'd love to have you back. Let's do this again. I've still got so many more questions
Definitely,
for
let's do it again.
you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so lovely to talk to you, and so great to get your perspective on things as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. The pleasure's all mine. So we'll just do the final two questions for today.
Yeah, sure.
First one is, what would you say was a bit of advice you wish you heard when you were starting out?
Wow, that's really great. Um, I think make sure that, oh God, that's really hard. I don't know. There's like a million things that I would tell myself now, going back. Um, don't give up, I guess.
Mm,
But also, I think make sure you're taking care of yourself financially. So make sure you're really actively thinking about the finance side of things, so that you're supported in terms of work that may not be acting, or acting work, but think about being financially. Um, that was always a goal of mine, but I think for me, I just needed to be more aware of that earlier on. And I think just, oh God, Oliver, I'm really finding it difficult to answer that question.
No, it's okay.
Um,
Don't pressure yourself. Don't pressure yourself.
yeah, that's all I've got at the minute, I think.
No, that's great.
And also just don't worry about most of it too much and have a bit more fun. I
Yeah, perfect.
think that's probably what I tell myself. Just have a bit more fun, like relax.
Yeah, just relax more, have fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
brilliant. And finally today, what would you say was an experience or experiences you've had in your career up to this point that you're never ever going to forget?
I think definitely filming parts of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, I'll never forget. Um, and I'll never forget the the camaraderie from As She Likes It, from that tour and the people. I'll never forget that. Yeah.
Amazing. Krupa, thank you. This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your time, and I've really, really loved talking to you. And yeah, I can't wait to have another conversation like this in the future with you, both in person and, of course, on here as well. So,
Thank you so much for having me, Oliver. Absolutely the same. Been such a pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
no, thank you, thank you. If you just hang on, I'll finish the recording, and I'll say goodbye to you
Yeah,
once we have a little debrief.
yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, brilliant, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the Uncensored Critic podcast, and I will be back very, very soon. And I'll see you next time. So, but for now, Krupa, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Oliver.